Hello and welcome to Afterlife Topics. If you like this type of content, please consider subscribing to the channel or becoming a patron at patreon.com/Afterlife Topics.
Hello everybody, welcome to Afterlife Topics and Metaphysics. Still without a proper desk, a proper setup. I do not recommend Sam Levitt's furniture. This is my official non-endorsement of Sam Levitt's. It's been a long struggle as they've botched one thing after another. But the main point is I don't have the whole setup I usually do when I make videos. That said, let's go ahead and steam along anyway and talk about these pyramid-shaped UFOs that have been on the news lately. And this is part of what is very clearly a rollout of UFO information. Now, some people thought that, the UFO subject had its heyday in 2017, 2018 when those so-called Tic Tacs appeared, and that would be the end of it. You wouldn't hear about UFOs in the news. You wouldn't hear about the military taking anything seriously again after that. That so-called Tic Tacs were probably some kind of weather phenomenon, which is a very silly argument, by the way. But I was not predicting that. I was predicting the opposite, that what we would see is a continued rollout of things getting more intense and more crazy as time goes on, not the other way around. So go ahead and play the video on the lower right hand side of the screen. So that is the pyramid that we're talking about. Now, I am obviously not an aerospace engineer. However, I do not think a flying pyramid is the most aerodynamic object that could be engineered. A flying pyramid kind of seems to me like something that is being run by, let's say, anti-gravity technology. Because if you have access to anti-gravity technology, then you can make a ship that is any shape that you want it to be. If you want to fly a pyramid, you can fly a pyramid. If you want to fly a bunch of six-sided dice in the air, you can fly that. If you want to fly, if you want to fly a helicopter through space, it doesn't matter. Because if you can control gravity, you can use any shape of any vehicle you want. Now, it doesn't mean that this thing was literally a pyramid, kind of just like hovering around space. It might have been. The angle kind of looked that way, but maybe it was more of a typical bird-shaped craft, and it just kind of looked like a pyramid. I don't know, but I will say that the extraordinarily large UFO that myself, my family, and my neighbors witnessed when I was a wee lad in 1997 was a flying pyramid, but it was I would say, a pyramid mothership, so it came in from space. We watched it come in from orbit, and it landed behind the Ironwood Monument Mountains, which are in southwest Arizona. And it came down like this, landed behind the mountain, and lit the whole place aglow. And then we had a whole armada of military helicopters, black SUVs, everything you can think of, storming out behind the mountain to rendezvous with whatever it was that landed. So I don't know if these are a similar group of pyramid UFOs. I don't know. But I will say that it's increasingly unlikely that this is China or that this is Russia. And I think people logically are concluding that, and it's what the U.S. military is implying. So we've had quite a few people in mainstream media, including the Department of Defense. They're not saying it's aliens, but they are limiting a lot of the other possibilities. Are saying this doesn't seem like anything that we have. We have the original guy who encountered the Nimitz sighting, said this is not from here. You have the gentleman who was, I believe, the director of defense, the Defense Intelligence Agency director. And that guy right there on the lower right side of the screen. And he had an interview not long ago. That's the one you're looking at on the screen right now. It might have been on Fox News, I think. And he had this kind of smirk on his face the whole time. And he was all but saying that these are aliens. Like, he wasn't coming out and saying it, but he had this kind of smirk, and he was saying, it's not anything we're capable of. And then you had that was the guy who took the video of the Nimitz encounter. So the point is that the U.S. military is an inch away from saying these are extraterrestrials, which is not a big surprise. And to me, it's not even that exciting, because I already know that obviously there's ETs. It doesn't, yes, it does make life more interesting, but it also adds a kind of an element of unknown, a little bit of a hassle, because you don't know what they want. We don't know how many there are. We don't know if this is a net gain or a net loss. There's a lot of unknown variables. But I think for some people that it is a really, really big deal. And what's really interesting, though, is the media spin. So let's look at this article by NBC News. And it's saying something, it's very interesting what they're setting up here. The title of the article is "The U.S. Military Takes UFOs Seriously. Why Doesn't Silicon Valley or Academia?" I will say NBC News is one of my least favorite places for news, right up there with New York Times, right up there with Fox News, Washington Post. All these mainstream media outlets are agenda-driven garbage. But it is interesting to look at what that agenda is lately. And this is kind of taking a page out of the types of things that I talk about, which is the closed-mindedness of mainstream, whether it's academia or it's like the self-appointed intelligentsia that controls the scientific paradigms. So that's what this article on NBC News is ripping apart. Before I mention this, by the way, you are watching Afterlife Topics Metaphysics. Usually we talk about life after death, the paranormal, encounters with the beyond. If you like this kind of stuff, please take a second to go down, hit that subscribe button where you can listen to these long form podcasts. It's the only way that they will pop up on your YouTube homepage. Even then they might not, because YouTube, speak of the devil, controlled by Silicon Valley and academia, likes to push this channel to the bottom of its algorithm. So I do recommend manually visiting this channel to get updates. And of course, if you want to get involved, work with me personally for astral projection coaching, help teach you how to make contact with the other side, then shoot me an email from down below, or that's included if you become a subscriber. You can join our interviews, our bi-weekly meetings, all of that at the $30 level at patreon.com/afterlife topics. Helps me do this work while doing other things, while being able to keep food on the table. So, all right, so let's take a look at this article. The government wants to know if these unidentified objects pose a military threat, but they also represent an opportunity to advance science and technology. In our era of life-changing innovation, there are major breakthroughs that could well come from the serious study of a phenomenon that we often mock, UFOs. The government has reversed its official position of publicly ignoring so-called UAPs and is starting to tackle the subject openly. But within academia and industry, the topic is still too frequently dismissed with a chuckle, accompanied by some trite remark about ETs, which it's not even a trite subject. That is primarily what we are dealing with. If not ETs, we're dealing with, I think, am I paraphrasing what one of these officials said recently, that it's like an alternate form of life? That sounds like ET to me, but heck, maybe it's not coming from another solar system. Maybe it's coming from inside the Earth. Maybe this is a breakaway civilization. Maybe this is technology from frickin' Antarctic Germans or something. I don't know. But the point is, it is a big deal. The Pentagon is acknowledging it, and what this article is saying is that this is, it's basically listing all these people who are coming out and saying this is a big deal, and you have Elon Musk smirking about it, and you have these the Silicon Valley intelligentsia, the academics, dismissing these incredible revelations. And this is not a surprise to me, because these institutions are so entrenched in materialism, they're so entrenched in their very limited way of thinking, that even when you have officials on a different side of the spectrum, when you have the government coming out and saying, hey guys, this is a real thing and it's a big deal. Number one, it might mean you're not alone in the universe, which is, to me, it's a very silly question, very, very silly concept that we would be, but this is how normies think. So we're not alone in the universe. We have technology that could even, if we can, according to Bob Lazar, we already have the crashed specimens or crashed ships that we've engineered, and you have the secret space program insiders. You got the Emery Smiths out there and people like that who say that we've already done that. We already are in space. We're already using that technology. We already have gone to other planets, and we've commandeered all this ET technology, and we are already a spacefaring civilization. But even if those guys are full of it, we have the potential to get there. Again, Bob Lazar's testimony. Check out that Joe Rogan interview. Check out the documentary about that came out recently. That we actually have access to this tech, and it could propel us into like a Star Trek future. But then you have Silicon Valley and academia smirking at it and not taking it seriously. Now, this to me shows you that there is this chasm happening between the old guard and the new guard, and you have some forces at work trying to put in a new guard, and it's coming up against this monster that they've created in the old guard, which is, again, academia, materialism, the non-scientific scientific establishment that wants to actually keep humanity held back and pushed down, which I think is also being controlled by its own kind of nefarious agenda, whether that's an agenda coming from this world or something nefarious beyond this world. There seems to be an active suppression that's always been happening in society, and now a chasm has just formed between the governments and that academic, again, to overuse the term, intelligentsia, the group that believes they have a capitalization on knowledge. So this is actually a really good thing, and I'll tell you why. Because, again, we don't know the agenda behind the government disclosures. Maybe that's also negative. Maybe they're going to release just enough information, and then they're going to use it against us. I don't know. There's different theories. Maybe, though, it's what some of these, the Johann Fritzes and Tony Rodriguez and some of these guys talk about, that there's an alliance. And the purpose of that alliance is different countries have come together to try to bring us into the next level of society, which would be a really good thing. So let's say that you have this alliance that is trying to find a way to introduce society to, let's begin with ETs and UFOs, and it could obviously expand from there, and then the end goal is being a more technologically advanced civilization. Well, that alliance is going to make a complete mockery of the intelligentsia. So that means not only powerful academic institutions, powerful corporate interests that want to keep people, basically keep their boots on the collective faces of humanity, but they will slowly lose all of their credibility, because, again, people with brains are going to look at the footage, they're going to look at the official statements, they're going to look at what the armed forces have to say, they're going to look at what Pentagon officials have to say, or hear what they have to say, and then they're going to contrast that with what the intelligentsia and their little, the little puppets that do all the little spokespeople, what they have to say, right? People like Neil deGrasse Tyson, Brian Cox, Michael Shermer, people who are still, even in lieu of all of these developments, are trying to say, oh, it must just be weather phenomena. Obviously, it's not weather phenomena. These things have been tracked by fighter jets, and documented very closely and analyzed by many, many scientists. So it's not like weather phenomena. So average people are going to look at that and say, what are you trying to pull? Why are you trying to deceive me? I am not buying it. And it's going to cause this wedge, and people are going to take academia and the intelligentsia much less seriously about everything, including afterlife topics and things like that. So to me, it's very exciting. It's very good news. And despite all the problems on the planet right now, this is a good development. So let's kind of finish up with this NBC News article. Why do leading scientists show such a profound lack of curiosity in a subject that might redefine not just their fields, but also all of science? It could lead to a new understanding of our place in the universe and new advances in material sciences, biology, quantum physics, cosmology, and social sciences. Part of the problem likely stems from an academic version of the old IBM rule in industry that no one ever gets fired for buying IBM. Similarly, no professor ever gets fired for mocking UFOs. The case of Harvard Medical School's Dr. John Mack, though, shows the dangers if you don't. I don't know that case. Thankfully, small cracks are appearing in academia's wall of mockery. A.V. Loeb, chief astronomer at Harvard University, was willing to say in his new book, Extraterrestrial, that he thinks that Oumuamua, the first object we have spotted in the night sky whose origin is definitely from outside of the solar system, was most likely a technological artifact of a long-vanished alien civilization. A quick shout-out to the very controversial insider who kind of went loopy, but his original show on Cosmic Disclosure on Gaia called Cosmic Disclosure was very, very interesting. This was Corey Good. He almost immediately, when Oumuamua was on the news, like one day later, he said that this was an ET object, that he had inside info from the secret space programs about what was in it, that it was like a extremely old, like 100 million year old spaceship, that the bodies inside Oumuamua were basically all like disintegrated, made of powder. It was a very, very early local spacefaring civilization, and that it was picked apart clean. It was like over the last 100 million years, like there's been loads and loads and loads and loads of different ETs that have gone in there and stolen the technology. So it's basically just this old husk floating around. So that's what he said, like the day after Oumuamua was on the news. And again, I was watching it for entertainment purposes, not necessarily taking that dude literally, but it sure sounds, interesting now, years later, that you have Harvard professors kind of saying the same thing. So I don't know what's going on with those guys. This field does get out there very quickly, but what I can say is that there's this chasm between what's maybe a new paradigm, a new future to look forward to, and you have the old guard that are going to be eating a lot of crow. So this is Afterlife Topics of Metaphysics. Thanks for listening to this quick podcast episode on my bed using my junky laptop web camera. Really hope to get back up to speed, as I usually am, coming up soon. And you can get in touch with me down below. Pick up books like Understanding Life After Death, or The Afterlife and Beyond on Amazon. If you haven't yet, you can find quick links to those at afterlifetopics.com. Tell me what you think in the comments down below about this latest series of events leading up to, I almost forgot, the big UFO report coming out of the Pentagon in a couple of months. Do you think that report's going to be the full disclosure of ETs, or is it just going to be another stepping stone? I think it'll be another stepping stone, but I think it'll be a big one. I think that report's going to make some clear pronouncements about things coming from not of this world. Anyway, that's it for this video. I got to head to an Afterlife University class or discussion group that I'm hosting. I do this twice a week, so I don't want to miss that. So I'll talk to you guys next time.